Hare Krishna, dear devotees. This is online only class from ISKCON of Silicon Valley on Bhagavad Gita. Today's thank you again for joining online on this class, uh, and we'll get started soon. So today's topic will be Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, the universal form. It is also known as the time form of Lord Sri Krishna. So before we get started, we'll have a small I'm going to do a small kirtan, and then we'll have pranam mantra, and then we'll get on the topic. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajajanaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajajanaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This particular kirtan is very dear to our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, because of a very simple reason that this kirtan essentially kind of summarizes the rasas and the ingredients, the people of Vraja. So Krishna is the lover of Radha. He displays many amorous pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. He is the lover of the cowherd maidens of Vraja and the holder of the great hill named Govardhan, and the beloved son of Mother Yasoda. He delights the inhabitants of Vraja and wanders in the forests along the banks of the river Yamuna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Now we will go to the pranam mantras. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamscha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So just to give you a short overview of why we do this, the first kirtan and this mantra is the first kirtan is our goal. We have to ultimately reach that place, Vraja, Golok. That's the final goal of life for a devotee, specifically for a devotee. And to get there, we need mercy of the previous acharyas. We need mercy of Lord Shri Krishna. We need mercy of Sri Radha and her associates. We need mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our Goswamis, and that is what we pray. Followed by the final Maha Mantra, which is the mantra for this age, the Kali Yuga. So now we'll jump to the topic of today. Before we go into the chapter 11, which is chapter 11 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is also known as the universal form. Basically, in Sanskrit it is called Vishwarup. So that is how we translate it into the universal form. Before we go into that chapter, just a couple of points. One is devotees, although they go through this chapter, the way the Lord Sri Krishna has been described in this chapter, they don't appreciate much. So we'll get to know when we go through the chapter, we'll get to know why. They actually like to see Lord Krishna as a much sweet, blue-colored boy with a flute and doing his mischievous acts through the streets of Vrindavan and the Braja. That is what they prefer more, because that's where the rasa is. The mellows, the transcendental melodies. The second is the context of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So Srimad Bhagavad Gita is actually essentially a conversation between Arjuna and Lord Sri Krishna. But it is contained within the conversation between Sanjay and Dhritarashtra. It is spoken in the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata, and just before the battle starts, Arjuna is in a dilemma. So Arjuna comes with a strong motive to fight. So on one side you have Arjuna, who is sort of leading the main warrior, and of course Bhima was also there, but the Arjuna is the main warrior from the Pandavas side. And on the Kauravas side, the opposite side, is Duryodhana, and then there are other warriors like Bhishmadev, Drona, and all those other warriors. So Arjuna comes with a very strong motive that asks Achyuta, that's another name of Lord Sri Krishna, who can never fall down, that please take my chariot in the middle of the battlefield so that I can see who are my enemies, who have come to satisfy the mind of evil-minded Duryodhana. So he was pretty much ready to start the fight. And then the next verse, Lord Krishna, in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna does not say, behold your enemy. He says, behold the Kurus. He was giving an indication to Arjuna is actually on the opposite side. Although they may be enemies at this point, many of them are your own relatives and many of them you respect very well. He wanted to give the context to Arjuna that battle is not to be taken lightly because the lives are gone. And we must, he's indirectly telling Arjuna that we should have a good reason for the battle. We should have exhausted all the options before the battle, for resolution before the battle. That's the point Krishna was making to Arjuna. Arjuna, of course, because of that word, behold the Kurus, he fell into illusion. And then he saw that so many people will die. And then in the beginning of the second chapter, he's saying, how can I kill my own, Pitamaha, which is great-grandfather, Bhishma Pitamaha, and how can I kill my own teacher, Drona? If I kill them, then the royal kingdom I will enjoy will be stained with their blood. It is sinful. On the other hand, the dilemma that Arjuna was facing was, of course, if that's a problem, then Arjuna should not fight. And then he should, whatever he was proposing, he should take a begging bowl and go and become a sannyasi. There is no dilemma there. Okay, it's a battle is a bad thing. This particular battle is definitely bad, and therefore he should not fight. The dilemma happened because Arjuna, in his heart, he knew that he was a Kshatriya. So Kshatriya dharma is, if a battle is thrust on you, you cannot turn your back. Okay, it is extremely sinful. It is actually one of the topmost sins of Kshatriya, that if they face a battle and they run away from the battlefield, then they pretty much, the sin is so high that they go to hell, basically. So it was not spoken in Bhagavad Gita first chapter, but that's understood. It is a Kshatriya dharma. So what to do? So he asked Krishna, tell me, I am accepting you as my spiritual master and I am your disciple. So he humbly submits to Lord Krishna and asks for his directions, for his instructions. And that is when, the real discussion of Bhagavad Gita starts. And that is where Lord Krishna takes Arjuna to a very, very high level of abstraction. Abstraction is not the right word. It is a reality, but it's a very high level of reality, almost the topmost reality, which is the reality of soul. And he says that all these people you see in this battlefield, before this life, they existed. Some form. Now they're existing, as you can see. And after they die in this battlefield, they will exist again in another form. So that eternal soul is going to exist. And this body, it is going to perish. It is made up of matter. It will anyway perish. So a soul has to tolerate all the adversities of life and keep on doing its duty. That is what Lord Krishna was telling Arjuna. And then, of course, Lord Krishna gives another perspective, that is saying that I have given you from the perspective analytically. Analytically means if you analyze the world, then you see the soul is the reality. Everything else is temporary. So that is analyze. He is analyzing. If you analyze the world, that's what you'll find. So what is soul to do? Right? There is nothing to gain in this world. Right? But so therefore we must do our duty. And your duty as a Kshatriya at this point is to fight, because the battle is in front of you. You cannot run away like a coward. Now he gives another perspective, which is the perspective of Buddhi Yoga, which our Acharyas have mentioned as Bhakti Yoga also. This Buddhi is not really to be translated word to word into, the material intelligence, IQ. No, that's not IQ. This is actually talking about spiritual intelligence. Because at this point, the context is that of a soul. So why would Lord Krishna talk about, material intelligence? He will definitely talk about something which is eternal, permanent. So he's talking about spiritual intelligence. And he is asking Arjuna to connect yourself to the Supreme using your spiritual intelligence. And if you use your intelligence, you'll find that as a soul, your duty is ultimately to focus on the Supreme, the form of the Supreme, and keep on doing your duty. Follow the regulative principles, focus on the form of Supreme, and keep doing your duty. That will only give you peace in life. If you tread into any other paths as written in the Vedas, you will have misery. That is what he says in Lord Krishna. So second chapter ends there, then the third chapter starts. Third chapter is Sakam Karma Yoga or Karma Yoga, as mentioned here, Karma Yoga. So Sakam Karma Yoga, the problem with Sakam Karma Yoga is because it is Sakam, with desire. The root of all desires ultimately starts from lust in this material world, directly, indirectly. So the problem is, even though you're saying that I have some desire, so I will follow the scriptural regulations to achieve that desire, and then whatever I get, I will offer it to Lord Krishna, and then I will take it. That is Sakam Karma Yoga. The problem with that is because there is a desire involved, your material desire, not any desire, but material desire is involved. So sometimes you may get compelled by that desire to do things that you're not supposed to do. And that is what Arjuna is asking towards the third chapter. How come sometimes I know this is wrong, I should not do it, but something within me forces me to do it. And Lord Krishna is saying that's the lust. Right? So that's the problem of Sakam Karma Yoga. And then Lord Krishna answers that question saying that only when you use your spiritual intelligence to control, spiritual intelligence, then you can conquer this lust, because lust is in three places: intelligence, mind, and all the senses. And then beginning of the fourth chapter, he starts the transcendental knowledge. Right? He said that knowledge, because intelligence is ultimately based on spiritual knowledge. Spiritual intelligence is spiritual knowledge. And Lord Krishna says that he has given this knowledge in the past. And it sort of gets distracted a little bit, that discussion, because Arjuna asked, like, how come you just came 5,000 years back and you are saying you gave this knowledge to sun god? And then, of course, it is to glorify Lord Krishna. Then Lord Krishna says, yes, I had come many times in the past. I remember all of them. You don't. That is why you're thinking that, I am sort of, I think their difference was probably 7 days or 15 days or something. Krishna was a little bit elder to Arjuna. Like we are, sort of, coexisting in the same age. That's what you're thinking. But that's a mistake. I know everything in the past. And then Lord Krishna gives the knowledge that two things he says in fourth chapter, that if he says that if you focus on my leelas, then that is a surefire medicine of conquering that lust. And he also says that this transcendental knowledge, he does say many ways one can sacrifice. One can sacrifice, his valuables. One can sacrifice one's mind. One can sacrifice one's attention. Right? There are different types of sacrifice, but he says ultimate goal of all sacrifice is transcendental knowledge. He does mention all the paths of sacrifice and how one can get transcendental knowledge. He gives also a very easy path, that if you are humble, if you can surrender to a soul who has already realized this, self-realized soul, this knowledge, then you can easily get that knowledge from him. If you go humbly to him, serve him, and ask questions. So that's the easy way. And then towards the end he says, he is any sacrifice you do, he is the ultimate enjoyer. So once you know that you are not the enjoyer, because the lust comes from the enjoying propensity, material desire. Once you know that you are not the enjoyer is Lord Sri Krishna, then in fifth chapter, he starts saying that now you do Nishkam Karma Yoga, because your karma is gone, because you are not supposed to. When you please Lord Krishna, because he is the real enjoyer, in return automatically you get pleasure, and that bliss is much more than the bliss or pleasure you get by following Sakam Karma Yoga. So then that's that Niskam Karma Yoga, that whole chapter he goes through Lord Sri Krishna, that how you're supposed to, you know, which is how you're supposed to, perform your work without material desire. Here also you offer all your results to Lord Krishna, but in the first, your desire here, you do have desire. The soul needs to have desire. That is why this whole universe is created. That is why there are spiritual worlds, right? If there is no desire, there is no action. Now, in all these worlds, either spiritual world, in material world, there are activities going on, and that activities, the root is desire. So desire will be there for the soul, but now your desire is spiritual desire, which is to serve the Supreme Spirit, Lord Sri Krishna. In the 6th chapter, Lord Krishna then talks about, okay, this is so far as the knowledge, based on knowledge you are working, but what is that world? What is that reality? Actually, just like when you go out, you see cars moving, you see trees, you see birds, right? How do you see that world? How do you see that reality? What is that absolute reality? So he says that if you want to really realize that, have a vision of that, then you need to go through the process of Ashtanga Yoga, right? Yama, Niyama, then Asana, Pranayam, right? Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. In the Samadhi stage, you will get to know what's the ultimate truth. And there, in every chapter towards the end, Lord Krishna does say, what is the easier way? Easier way is always he's saying that, come closer to me, you know that I am the Supreme, focus on me, right? You can go with your daily lives and keep me in your mind. That is what he's saying again and again. So that is what he repeats in the end of 6th chapter also. The best of the yogis is the one who always remembers me. And then in the beginning of 7th chapter, he describes what exactly these yogis see. They see only 3 truths. Only 3. One, there is a Supreme, that is Lord Sri Krishna. Then he says there are all this material world are essentially his separated energies, right? Which is earth, water, fire, ether, all that. Even the the subtle elements like the mind, intelligence, ahankar, false ego. It's all separated energy of Krishna. And then there are superior energy called living entities. And there are these living entities, the superior energy, are constantly struggling to exploit this inferior energy to achieve their desire. That is, he actually now, he realizes, he sees that. In that state of samadhi, he's aware of that, not as theoretical, not like you're reading Bhagavad Gita and you're getting answer. No, he is now aware of that all the time, 24 hours, 7 days. Every time. There is not a moment he does not deviate from that understanding. So in the 6th chapter, he keeps on going. So that is the 7th chapter. Okay. Knowledge of the absolute. Then in the 8th chapter is how to attain the Supreme, because towards the 7th chapter, end of 7th chapter, Lord Krishna does talk about many concepts like Brahma. Brahma is not Brahmadev, but Brahma, this impersonal Brahman. He talks about Adidev, the first of the Devas, then foremost sacrifice, and many concepts. And Arjuna starts the 8th chapter with those concepts. What are you all this talking about? You are saying all these things, connected to you. You are the source of all these things. But what are these things? And he wants to know. So you want to know basically all these things to attain the Supreme. That's 8th chapter. Goes on. Towards the end of 8th chapter, Lord Krishna does say that he does mention the yogis again. He's actually talking about bhakti yogis. The bhakti yogis who are unalloyed in the sense, not only they don't desire anything fruitive, they don't even have the desire to know the ultimate. Not the ultimate, I mean the speculative knowledge. They don't have the desire to, they have given up that desire to. So when such a yogi practices devotional service, Lord Krishna is saying He not only get the results of that yogi, but he get the results of all other paths, whether you follow the path of, empiricist, right, the scientific path, or you follow the path of karma, or you follow the path of jnana, whatever results you get there, you get all of that in this path, and ultimately you reach. Ninth chapter, he gives a confidential knowledge, where Lord Krishna is saying that so essentially he says this, that he pervades everything, but one should not think that if he pervades everywhere and everything, that Krishna as a person doesn't exist, as if he dissolves. No, he's clarifying. He's saying that I pervade everything in my impersonal form, but then as a person, I am not in them. I am separate. But still I am in them, because this impersonal form, because it's my energy, so I'm in that way, I'm always connected. So that the confidential knowledge he gives. He does talk about the other aspects of confidential knowledge, and this is specifically for the people who come from India, basically. They almost always consider all the gods and goddesses at the same level. Here Lord Krishna is clarifying that in the 9th chapter, and that is why it is called confidential knowledge. He is clarifying that all these different gods and goddesses, when you worship them, you worship me, and when you get results from them, they actually come from me. But here is the point. If you keep worshipping them independently, without desiring me, then you will go to their planets, and those planets dissolve at the time of annihilation. But my residence never dissolves. So if you worship me, you will come to me, and you will live there eternally. There is no creation, there is no dissolution of Golok Vrindavan. It exists eternally. So he is sort of, he's saying, he's discouraging the worship of the demigods. But in Braja Lila, Govardhan Lila, there's a two important aspect. When the Brajavasis were trying to worship Indra, he discouraged. Lord Krishna discouraged. No, your rain is happening because of the mountain. All these clouds are coming from the sea and they're hitting the mountain and there is rain. Why you have to worship Indra for that? Right? And then we know there is a Govardhan Lila. I'm not going there. But the gopis, they used to follow Katyayani Vrat. Katyayani is who? Another name of Amba or goddess Durga. But what they would go to her for? To pray for giving Krishna as their husband. So, on one hand, Lord Krishna is discouraging the worship of demigods. On the other hand, he is fine if the gopis go and pray to Katyayani for, a woman, a girl wants to have a bride, Krishna as the bridegroom. He is fine with that. So, he discourages Lord Krishna because he discourages not because he wants to be worshipped. He discourages because the living entity will unnecessarily be in turmoil, right? You are going to the planet of demigod, and when the universal annihilation happens, demigod goes away, you also go away. Again, you come down and the cycle of birth and death, right? He wants the living entities for their good, he's saying. He's not saying because he wants worship. Right? That is 9th chapter. Right? That is 9th chapter, and he also says at the end of 9th chapter how to worship him. It's very simple. You just give leaf, flower, water. The main thing is devotion, love and devotion. When you know that Lord Krishna is doing so much for you, he is an eternal friend in your heart all the time, right? Every life. He is not like a friend of this world, right? When everything is good for you, you have a lot of friends, and then it's going bad and they desert you. It's not friend like that. In good and bad, he's always there. Then you become very grateful, and naturally then you feel you have devotion for him, such a friend. right? And you worship him. Very simple. Then 10th chapter, Lord Krishna talks about his opulences. Okay? Because Arjuna is asking, 10th chapter also there is a very important 4 verses where Chatur Sloki we say from 8 to 11, where our acharyas have said that that is essentially the summary, the whole summary of Bhagavad Gita, because that says that Krishna is the intelligent or wise person. When he says that Krishna is the source of everything, then he worships Krishna, and the way he worships is by discussing his pastimes with the other devotees, and he really enjoys that. And when Krishna sees that, then Krishna comes to their heart, and with a shining lamp of knowledge, it destroys their darkness, and they can see everything very clearly. The spiritual world, material world, everything is visible to them. So that's the summary of those 4 slokas. But then Arjuna asks, how do I remember you, basically? Because you keep saying that when we leave this world, we have to remember you. So that is only possible if we remember you all the time. So how do we remember you? So Lord Krishna starts describing his opulences. Like he says, among the elephants, I am the best elephant, Aravata. Among those who wield weapons, I am Lord Rama. Among all the Rudras, 11 Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Right? Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine spirit, fine speech, right? Patience, all those good qualities, feminine qualities. So now, having said that as the 10th chapter, okay, now in the 11th chapter, beginning of 11th chapter, I'll give you a little bit of context and then we'll read through the verses. Arjuna is saying, I am not totally convinced that you are the supreme. You have also described how the living entities come and go in this world. You have described everything. I'm totally convinced. But still, I want to know, I'm a little bit curious that you are saying you are all of these things. How exactly? Right? How exactly? How exactly are you? Is a typical question, if you go to a scientist and you start describing philosophy, the first question he will ask that all this philosophy sounds great, but is it really working? Is that how it works, or it is just your made up story? Right? It's typical. So Arjuna is convinced. He is a devotee and friend of Lord Krishna. He is convinced because he knows that people will read. People will know about this discussion between him and Lord Krishna on behalf of those people who are not or skeptical. For them to satisfy their skepticism, he asked this question: How are you? How are you? How are you? All these things. I want to know. And that is where is in the 11th chapter, Lord Krishna shows his universal form, where he pervades the entire, not only this universe, many universes. Okay, so we will now, before I move forward, I see there are few people here in the Zoom. I don't know how many people are there in Facebook. If you have any questions, any doubts, any feedback, comments, corrections, you can unmute and ask. And after that, I will go into the 11th chapter. Please don't hesitate. Don't feel shy. There are only 4 people. So, can just ask. Let me see if there is anything in the YouTube or in the Facebook. Okay. Looks like I don't have any questions or feedback or anything. Yes. Someone has something? Okay. Okay. So we have some comments in YouTube and Facebook, but I don't see any questions or anything. And thank you for all the comments. Um, and all this I'm saying is not made by me. These are all based on the translation by our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, uh, given in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, given in Srimad Bhagavatam, and of course, it's also by the mercy of my Guru Maharaj, his lectures. I'm deriving a lot of insights from his lecture. So now I'm going to go and start sharing my screen. I hope everyone can see the screen. Okay. What I will do, I will go, I'm not going to go through because 11th chapter is first of all very big. Okay, there are some 55 verses. So I'm not going to go through all the 55 verses. I will go through first 22 verses. Okay. Maybe I will touch few verses towards then, maybe. And then there's a particular verse, the 8th verse is where I'm going to drill. Basically, I will sort of digress into Bhagavatam to describe few things there. Okay. Chapter 11, the universal form. Arjuna Uvacha Mad Anugrahaya Paramam Guhyamadhyatma Samgitam Yatvayuktam Vachastena Moho Ayam Vigato Mama Bhavapyayu hi bhutanam Srutau Vistaraso Maya Twatah Kamalapatraksha Mahatmyam Api Chavyayam Evametat yathatvam Atmanam Parameshwara Drashtumichami te rupam Aishwaram Purushottama Manyase yadi tatshakyam Maya drashtum iti prabho Yogeshwara tato netvam Darshayatmanam avyayam. So this is in the 4th verse. Essentially Lord Arjuna is requesting Lord Krishna. This is very important. You cannot order Lord Krishna to show himself to you. That I have done this thing, all this service to you, now you have to show. No, you cannot do that. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One of his qualities is all renounced. He really doesn't need anything from you. You are doing all that for your own purification. We should always be in that mood. And if you want to ask something from him, we must request him. He is not obliged to give us, but we must request him. Manyashe yadi tatsakyam. If you think I am able to see, then please show that form of yours. So he's requesting, right? And he's showing, and he's also humble. He's saying that I am probably not capable or able to see your form because I don't have the qualifications. But please reveal yourself to me. So that is the mood. That is the mood with which we should go to Lord Krishna. So what Lord Krishna is then saying. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Pashyame Partha Rupani Satasotha Sahasrasa Nana Vidhani Divyani Nana Varna Kritini Cha Pashyadityan Vashun Rudran Ashvinau Marutas Bahuni Adrasta Purvani Pashyaschayani Bharata Ihaikastam Jagat Krishnam Pasyadyasa Characharam Mam Tehe Gurakesha Yachanyadrastum Michasi Natu Mam Shakyashe Drastum Anenaiva Swachakshusha Divyam Dadam Te Chakshu Pashyame Yogameshwaram Sanjaya Uvacha Eva Muktva Tato Rajan Mahayogeshwaro Hari Darshayam Ashaparthaya Paramam Rupameshwaram. Now Sanjay has started describing this because this is the Bhagavad Gita spoken on the 10th day of the battlefield, And Bhishmadev already fell down, right? And sorry, Bhagavad Gita was spoken on the before the battle starts, but it was recorded on the 10th day when the Sanjay comes to Dhritarashtra and says the Bhishma fell. Then Dhritarashtra asks, how come that happened? Because Bhishma has Ichha Mrityu, he can die of his own will. So that is how the Bhagavad Gita starts. He says, Mamaka Pandavasayo Kima Kurvata Arjuna. That is the first verse of Bhagavad Gita in the first chapter. So Sanjaya, the reason why he's describing this thing to Dhritarashtra specifically, he is stressing, right, whatever conversation having anyway, Dhritarashtra is listening, but Sanjaya is interjecting and saying this specifically, at least after hearing this, if Dhritarashtra has change of mind and he calls Duryodhana and says, stop this battle. You can never win this battle. Right? So that was the reason. Sanjay suddenly interjects. Eva muktva tato rajan mahayogeshwaro hari darshayamasa parthaya paramam rupameshwaram anekavaktra nayanam anekadbhuta darshanam anekadivyabharanam divyanekodyatayudham divyamalayam varadharam divyagandhanulepanam sarvascharyamayam devam anantam vishwato mukham divi surya sahasrasya bhaved yugapad uttita yadibhasadrashisha syat bhasastasya mahatmana tatraikastam jagat krishnam pravibhaktam anekadha apashyad deva devasya sarire pandavastada tatah sa vishmayavisto hrishtaro dhananjaya pranamya sirasha devam kritanjalirabhasata. Until this, Sanjaya almost described, the vastness of that Krishna's form, that how, is brilliant, Divvi Surya Sahasrasha, as if not one sun, thousands and thousands of suns, if they come up with the kind of light, that is the kind of light you will see that coming from the Krishna's form. All the demigods are there. Okay? All the weapons are there. So, he describes all this. And then he kind of changes to what? He starts describing to Dhritarashtra what Arjuna is saying in response to that. Arjuna uvacha pashyami devamstava deva dehe sarvamstata bhuta vishesha shangam brahmanam misham kamalasanastam rishinscha sarvanuragamscha divyan aneka bahudara netram pashyami tvam sarvato anantarupam nantam na badhyam na punastavadim pashyami vishveswara vishwarupa kiritinam gadinam chakrinam cha tejorasim sarvato diptimantam pashyami tvam durniriksham samanta dittanalaka dyutim aprameyam tvam aksharam paramam veditavyam tvam asya vishvasya param nidhanam tvam avvaya shasvata dharma gopta shanatanas-tvam purusho mato me anadimadhyantam anantaviryam anantabahum sasishuryanetram pashyami tvam dipta hutashavakram swatejasa vishvam idam tapantam dyava aprithibhyo nidamantaram hi vyaptam tvayyekena disascha sarva drishtvaadbhutam rupamugram tavedam lokatrayam pravyathitam mahatman. Here Arjuna is describing not only the vastness but the ferociousness of that form, Lord Krishna. Amihi tvam sura sangha vishanti kechid bhita pranjalayo grinanti swastiti uttva maharshi siddha sangha स्तुवन्ति त्वां स्तुतिभिः पुष्कलाभिः रुद्रातिद्या वसयो ये च शाद्या विश्वे अश्विनौ मरुतश्चोष्मपाश्च गन्धर्वयक्षासुरसिद्धसङ्घा वीक्षन्ते त्वां विस्मिताश्चैव सर्वे. So he's describing all the demigods, all the fragrances, all the weapons, expanding everywhere. So now Arjuna is able to get, Lord Krishna is saying how he is present in Airavata, how he is present in the good qualities of a woman, feminine qualities, how he is present in the best of the trees, which is the banyan tree. Now he understands because he's everywhere. He's everywhere. Only when a particular entity is pure in form, he shows the glory. He shows the glory completely, and then that particular form becomes the best. So he's able to understand. Now, I'm not going to read the other verses, but I'm going to read, recite a particular verse. Yeah, this one, 31 and 32. Here, Arjuna is saying this. Akhyahi meko bhavanugra rupo namastu te devavara prasida vigyantum ichchami bhavantamadhyam nahi prajanami tava pravrittim. He's saying, translation, O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. Because he is also scared. Such vastness of form, he is scared. You are the primal Lord. He is saying you are the primal Lord. You are the first Lord. Why? Because he sees all other Lords are in that form. Shiva, Brahma, their energies, everything is there. Right? There is nothing that he can think of is not there. He is the primal Lord, the first Lord, Adi Purush. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. So he asks two questions here. He asks, who are you actually? And then he asks what your mission is. Two questions he asks. And Lord Sri Krishna answers in the next verse. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Kaloshmi Loka Shaya Krita Pravidho Lokan Samahartum Iha Pravritta Rite Api Tvam Na Bhavishyanti Sharve Ye Avastita Prati Anikeshu Yodha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, time I am, Kaloshmi. So if anyone ever asks, what is time? Right? Then someone will say, oh, that I can see that clock, there's a ticking clock, there's something ticking. Or you can say in a very abstract way that scientists, even in the old world, not only scientists, in the old world, people will observe that there are certain things which happen periodically, day in, day out. They will use that's those behavior of material nature or material objects, they will use it to standardize time. Right? So time is essentially a measuring instrument. But in Vedic concept, there is another view of time as the controller of everything. That aspect doesn't exist in the today's, if you look at the material science today, or what is called modern science, you will see time only as a measuring device, as a measuring instrument. They don't see as time controlling everything. Okay? They see as laws of nature, there are laws of physics, what they call, controls the world. Right? And they measure those laws of physics using time. But if you look at the form, you will see all these devas which control various elements and various aspects of the universe are within the time form of Krishna. So, in a way, scientists have reached to the point that they don't, of course, they don't accept that behind the laws of nature or laws of physics there are individual, like how the air is controlled, how the water is controlled, how the space is controlled. They don't accept there is a person behind that. Vedas say there is, and those are called demigods, right? But how the demigods are being controlled? They are being controlled by time. And what is that time, if someone asks? You tell them, go and read 11th chapter, you will know what is time. That is the definition of time. So 11th chapter essentially talks about in a very visual way what is time, right? Kaloshmi lokakshaya krita praviddho lokan samahetum iha pravitta vite api tvam na bhavishyanti sarve eva sthita prati anikeshu yodha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, time I am the great destroyer of the worlds. So time essentially, if you look very carefully, time actually destroys, right? The big civilizations, they get destroyed. The nations, they get destroyed. The structures, the buildings, over time they get destroyed, right? And I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. Right? So he is also proclaiming what is going to happen. And he's telling his mission. He answers both the question. What is his mission? His mission is to destroy the people, the evil people. And of course, on this side also, as a result, people will die. But the Pandavas will be saved because they are devotees of Lord Shri Krishna. Okay. Now, so this is basically the 11th chapter. I'm going to stop here, but there is before I go forward, I am going to I will go and towards the end, Arjuna is asking something. So that Arjuna is actually a devotee, right? He's a warrior, but he's also devotee. So what does devotees want to see? Right? So here he is saying Arjuna vacha drishtavedam manusam rupam tava saumyam janardana idanim asmi samritta sacheta prakritim gata. When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, "O Janardhan, seeing this human-like form, when Krishna came back to his original form, beautiful two-handed form, so very beautiful, I am now composed in mind. I am restored to my original nature." So Arjuna's original nature was a devotee. So he is now very happy to see that beautiful form of Krishna. Okay. Now I will wait. I will stop again to see YouTube or any other places if anyone has any questions. And of course, in the Zoom also you can always go ahead, unmute and ask questions, or give feedback, corrections, anything. Meanwhile, I go to the YouTube and Facebook in case they have someone has put any questions there. Okay, I don't see any questions here. So I will go ahead and start sharing again. So I will go to the just this mood of devotees, right? I will drill on that. So I will go deeper into that. So I will go to the 8th verse, and there from the purport we'll move into that. Okay? So in the 8th verse, Lord Krishna is saying, but you cannot say. So there is another aspect that Arjuna could not see with his material eyes, that time form, right? So Lord Krishna had to give him the divine eyes, the transcendental eyes, by which he could see that form, the universal form, right? So that's what he's saying. But you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore, I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. Right? Purport. A pure devotee does not like to see Krishna in any form except his form with two hands. A devotee must see his universal form by his grace, not with the mind but with the spiritual eyes. To see the universal form of Krishna, Arjuna is told not to change his mind but his vision. The universal form of Krishna is not very important. That will be clear in subsequent verses. Yet, because Arjuna wanted to see it, the Lord gives him the particular vision required to see that universal form. Devotees who are correctly situated in a transcendental relationship with Krishna are attracted by loving features, not by a godless display of opulences. Now, this is the mood of Braja. This is our goal of life. The playmates of Krishna, the friends of Krishna, and the parents of Krishna never want to see Krishna to show his opulences. They are so immersed in pure love that they do not even know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is very important. If you want to get intimate with someone, and if you always think, oh, he is such a high person, then you will always be careful. You try to avoid, committing any offenses. You'll be careful. And that is the mood between the devotees who are devotees of Lord Narayan or Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu they see as the supreme master of the world. And so there are devotees, so they are in the Dasya ras, right? The rasa of servant, like servitude. And that is how, they interact with Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan. And they are accepting him as the supreme personality of Godhead. Sorry, as someone with very opulent, with lot of Aishwarya, is okay. But in Braja, because you have to be very intimate with Krishna, so there that mood of reverence, of respect to Krishna comes in the way. So Yogmaya potency of Lord Krishna makes sure that these devotees, they forget that Lord Krishna is actually Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then only they will be able to come close to him and engage in intimate pastimes. In their loving exchange, they forget that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the boys who play with Krishna are all highly pious souls. And after many, many births, they are able to play with Krishna. Such boys do not know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They take him as a personal friend. Therefore, Sukdev Goswami recites this verse. Ittham satam brahma sukhanubhutya dashyam gatanam paradaivatena maya sutanam naradaratena sakam vijaruhu krita punya punya. Here is the Supreme Person who is considered the impersonal Brahman by great sages, the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotees, and a product of material nature by ordinary men. But now these boys who have performed many, many pious activities in their past lives are playing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 12, 11. So I am not going to go over the rest of the purport, but I will go into this particular verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So this is in the 10th canto. Oh, not this one. I think this here. So this is actually a group of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The group of 5 verses. Okay. So I am not going to go over the Sanskrit, but I will go over the translation, because try to understand the rasas or try to feel. It's not a question of understanding, it's more question of feeling, basically, like how the boys, the gopas, basically, of the Braja, they're enjoying with Lord Krishna. So all the boys would be differently engaged. Some boys blew their flutes. So it was not just Lord Krishna. Even some of the gopas had their own, because they saw the Lord Krishna is playing flute. So they also, learned, few of them learned flutes and they blew their flutes. Others blew bugles made of horn. Some imitated the buzzing of the humble bees, because they are in the forest, right? Forest of Daja. So there are bumblebees, right? Like that, the sound. So they are imitating that sound. And others imitated the voice of the cuckoo, right? The beautiful soft sound of cuckoo. Some boys imitated flying birds by running after the bird shadows on the like this. They are imitating, by following the shadow on the ground. Some imitated the beautiful movements and attractive postures of the swans, right? So they copied them. Some sat down with the ducks. Ducks, they will sometimes sit down, and they will sit down like that, sitting silently. And others imitated the dancing of the peacocks. Some boys attracted young monkeys in the trees, and some jumped into the trees, imitating the monkeys. And some made faces as the monkeys were accustomed to do. So some monkeys, it is not advisable. They sometimes, make face and they show the teeth and all that, right? It is not good to reciprocate actually. Here the situation is different because Lord Krishna was there, because often, they get annoyed. Monkeys, if you imitate them, they get annoyed, and then they can come and they can slap you and all. In Vrindavan and all, so you have to be careful. But here the Gopas, they were doing that. They were having fun. And others jumped from one branch to another. Some boys went to the waterfalls and crossed over the river, jumping with the frogs. And when they saw their own reflections on the water, they would laugh. They would also condemn the sounds of their own echoes. This, I don't know whether you have observed this, but little children, when they go to such places, because there are mountains, there are Govardhan mountains, so the sounds are reflecting back. So they are thinking it is, when they are saying something, the mountain is saying back to them. So then they are, sort of where did it go? Sounds of that, they would condemn them. Hey, why are you responding back to me? In this way, all the cowherd boys used to play with Krishna, who is the source of the Brahman effulgence. Now, here, till now, sound of their echoes, they are, Krishna is there. Krishna is also probably engaged with some of the Gopas. But because of Krishna, they are so happy that happiness, what they have, is reflected with everything in that nature. Whatever they see in that nature, they feel happy. There is no boredom there. Everything seems happy there. They are all lively, full of consciousness. And then this happiness they have, and it's not that because if, remember, if they thought that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, they would not have done all these things close to Krishna. Everyone would have come close to Krishna and would have prayed to him, various prayers of his opulence. They are able to do this only because they think that Krishna is their friend. And with friend, you can always, take some chances, right? In this way, all cowherd boys used to play with Krishna. Now he's saying that this verse is describing his opulence, who is the source of Brahman effulgence for Jnanis desiring to merge into that effulgence, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead for devotees who have accepted eternal servitorship, and who for ordinary persons is but another ordinary child. The cowherd boys, having accumulated the results of pious activities for many lives, were able to associate in this way with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can one explain their great fortune? So they are experiencing tremendous bliss here, and that is what they are describing here. And they're experiencing this bliss because Lord Krishna is there, which makes everything around him lively. The mountains, the oceans, the rivers, the trees, everything is lively. And they are able to experience happiness everywhere, these Gopas. But then, what is driving all that? That his immense opulence, that he is the Brahman effulgence, source of the Brahman effulgence. He is, the Supreme Personality for the devotees who accept eternal servitorship, that is the Dasyaras, right, for them. And for ordinary persons, he is just another ordinary child. And that's also fine, right? The ordinary materialistic people can also derive some pleasure from this. They're looking at how Krishna is playing, because they can then remember their own childhood, like how they used to play, like we were carefree, right? No bother. So they also get some. So Lord Krishna, therefore Lord Krishna is said all merciful, because he's merciful to everyone. He is merciful to even materialistic people. See, all these pastimes that happened, the reason why our acharyas have captured this Krishna Lila is because in Kali Yuga, people will be so engrossed in the material pleasure that they will get exhausted by it. And then these materialistic people can often come here, listen to this Krishna Lila, okay, and get some relief from the daily shows. So that is why our acharyas captured all these things in the scriptures. Although these are very specifically the Madhurya Lila, the pastimes between Lord Krishna and gopis, they are very confidential. One has to be in a very surrendered sort of, mood to actually even listen to them. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 500 years back and he made that also public. So because in Kali Yuga, people will be so fallen and so disturbed all the time that they will need something from the eternal world to recharge them. And also in that process, they will come closer and closer to Lord Krishna and his devotees. His purport is also wonderful. Okay, purport by since this is 12th chapter of 10th canto, so this was written by Srila Prabhupada only, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami, Tasmat Kenapi Upayena Manah Krishna Nivesaya. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 124. Somehow or other, whether one thinks of Krishna as an ordinary human child, as the source of the Brahman effulgence, as the soul, as the origin of Paramatma, or as the Supreme Personality, anyway, you just remember, one should concentrate one's full attention upon the lotus feet of Krishna. That is also the instruction of Bhagavad Gita 18.6.6. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam saranam braja. Srimad Bhagavatam is the easiest way of directly approaching Krishna. Isvara sadhya hridi avarudyate atra kritivi susrusubhis tat shanat. Bhagavatam 1.1.2, it is described in the beginning of Bhagavatam, the first canto, first chapter, second verse itself. Diverting even a little of one's attention toward Krishna and activities in Krishna consciousness immediately enables one to achieve the highest perfection of life. So not all the time, even little bit, if you every day, if you divert your attention to Lord Krishna, right, and Krishna consciousness, his leelas, his forms, whatever you like, his name. Some people will be attracted to his name, chanting his holy name. Some may be attracted to his beautiful form, which is bent in three places, his body, Cham Sundar form, playing flute. Some people may be attracted to his, the leelas in the Braja, right, his leelas as in his boyhood pastimes, right, with the other Gopas. Some may be attracted to his, Kaishora Leela during his toddler pastimes he had with the gopis. People can be attracted to his various leelas. And here our Srila Prabhupada is saying, any way you can get attracted to Lord Krishna is fine, whatever way. But if you put your attention, then that is the highest perfection of life. What is ultimately we are looking for? We are looking for happiness. Right? But the happiness of this material world are temporary. They are pleasures, actually, temporary pleasures. And when the pleasure is gone, we hanker for more. It doesn't give satisfaction, it burns. But this bliss or this happiness from the spiritual connection to Lord Krishna and his pastimes, his names, it satisfies you. You can, of course, get attached to it and go, but it does not burn you from inside. It stops the hankering tendency of the heart. So you get real happiness. So that is the highest perfection of life you get. This is the purpose of Krishna consciousness movement. Lokasya janato vidvans chakre shatvata samhitam Bhagavatam 176. The secret of success is unknown to people in general. And therefore Srila Vyasadeva, being compassionate toward the poor souls in this material world, especially in this age of Kali, has given us Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam. Amalam means, Mala means contamination. Amalam, without contamination. Yat Vaishnavanam Priyam. Because it is totally uncontaminated Srimad Bhagavatam. It is very dear to Vaishnavas. It is Bhagavatam 12:13-18. For Vaishnavas who are somewhat advanced or who are fully aware of the glories and potencies of the Lord, Srimad Bhagavatam is a beloved Vedic literature. That does not mean that we should not read. It's just like the example they were giving, that of course it is for the people who are highest, who wants impersonal Brahman, who accepts him as the supreme personality of Godhead, but it is also okay. If it's an ordinary man thinking him as an ordinary child, that is also fine. But of course for Vaishnavas it is very dear. After all, we have to change this body. Tatha dehantara prapti. That's the slok in the second chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. If we do not care about Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we do not know what the next body will be. But if one adheres to these two books, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, one is sure to obtain the association of Krishna in next life. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. Bhagavad Gita, the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is at the end. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam saranam vraja. Surrender to Lord Krishna. But how to surrender to Lord Krishna? The 9 different processes. That's Ramanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Path and etc. Those 9 processes are described in detail in various forms through various pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam. And it will engage you throughout the lifetime. And you will be happy, you will be contented. Therefore, and when we get this pleasure, when we get this contentment, we don't want to have it just, when we get a very beautiful thing, right? We don't always just keep it to ourselves. We feel like sharing it with others. The same thing. Therefore, distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world is a great welfare activity for theologians, philosophers, transcendentalists, and yogis. Yoginam api sarvesham. Again, another verse from Bhagavatam, right? I think that is from the 8th chapter, I believe, or 6th chapter, one of those. As well as for people in general. Janma labha para pumsham ante narayana smriti. And that is the ultimate goal of life. When we leave this body, we must remember Narayana. If you can somehow or other remember Krishna, Narayana at the end of life, our life will be successful. And because Lord Krishna is all merciful, therefore he knows that these people are at least trying to remember me all the time. But of course we cannot. We all know that when we are driving, when we are going to work, when you are household work, we cannot remember, right? So Lord Krishna then will, as Mahaprabhu, he will come and will make sure that you remember him. So that is an additional promise from Lord Krishna through his Mahaprabhu. Right? So we must do our best effort, and then we leave it to Lord Krishna that he will help us remember when we leave this body. And as I described in the 8th chapter, following this path not only is going to help you in your next life when you go back to Lord, go back to Godhead, to the Lord Krishna's abode, but it will also help you in this life to remain contented and whatever needs you have, the basic needs. It is not going to make you billionaire or trillionaire or very big empire, but it will give you enough so that you won't be wanting in this material life. So it will. So that is the crux of the 8th chapter, the last verse, the 28th verse of Bhagavad Gita. Vedeshu sarveshu, like that it starts. That's so I'm going to now stop, and I'm going to summarize actually that how come from 11th chapter we came here. So if you look at Arjuna's question, Arjuna is asking on behalf of all those skeptics, right? How are you in this world? But when he sees that vastness, which such skeptics should see, basically realize that it is not easy to either understand or control that how of this material world. That is why, you know, scientists may invent something, 80 years back, electric bulb, right? The light in the night. Is that good? Well, if you use it for devotional service, that's good. But overall, it's not good. Because when you have light in the night, then you stay awake longer. So you're not able to wake up the next day early morning. Right? So it is essentially, and more you stay in the night, more you will be going to the mode of ignorance. You will engage in all abominable activities. So we invent something. I'm not saying inventions are bad. If the inventions, immediately does some good, basically, right? And if it can be used for devotional service, any invention is great. Basically, it purifies, that invention. But material world, philosophically speaking, material world is very hard to control. So, and the reason I came here is we should first accept that it is Lord Krishna is all merciful, is all renounced. He doesn't have to gain anything from it. He's doing everything for our good. So he will take the right decisions. His time form will take the right thing. What we should do is we should surrender ourselves to him completely. We'll go by his plan, which of course we cannot talk to Lord Krishna. So we will have to accept a spiritual master. He will tell us, basically, he will give us instructions. Follow his instructions. If you have doubts, you can go and talk to him. Lead your life like that, and then Krishna, and then read Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, chant his holy name, and then Krishna will, take care of you. That's the connection between the 11th chapter and how we went to this, the rasa. This is basically what we described just now, is the Sakya rasa, the rasa of the friendship with Krishna. Right? The friends of Krishna wants to see Krishna as a beautiful boy. Right? So I'll stop sharing. 4 more minutes left. I will just quickly check if anyone has any questions, comments, anything. This one, you can definitely okay. So there is a question. Someone has asked in the YouTube, Hare Krishna, is time a factor in Vaikuntha? So what is so? Okay, so we have just 3 minutes left, but I will very high level. The Vedic concept of time, not the time as a measuring instrument. I'm not talking about that time. That is understood. That is there in Vedic concept. That is also there in the modern science. There is this concept of time as a controlling power, okay, which controls everything. That is almost, the time is sort of giving our results of, making things happen, destroying things, of course, also making things happen, and giving us our final destination in this material world. The question is, does it exist in Vaikuntha? In material world, time forces us. In Vaikuntha also time exists, but it does not force. It aids us. Because in Vaikuntha, you're always engaged in spiritual activities, right? And because of your pure desire, time helps you. Okay. Like for example, in material world, if you have a desire, you have to get the ingredients, you have to work hard, You have to put energy, you have to put money, you have to put planning, all that. In spiritual world, there are kalpa vriksha, desire trees. So if you have a desire, then it happens instantly. There is no inertia there. If the concept of inertia does not exist in spiritual world because it is pure energy, so it immediately happens. Okay, if you want to, of course, if you want to engage in, let's say, making a garland for Lord Krishna, if that's your desire, the garland will not come immediately, but the flowers will come, the thread will come as much as possible, because time there is helping you. So that is why sometimes our Acharya says time is present there. Time is conspicuous in the spiritual world by its absence, in the sense the way you perceive time in material world, that aspect of time which forces you, right, which kind of drags you down, that aspect of time does not exist in spiritual world. Time actually helps you there. So I hope I answered your question, Prabhu, whoever asked me. Okay, is time a factor in Vaikuntha? Since it is in YouTube, so I don't know. I think he's happy with the answer. But it's 8:30, so we are going to close our session now. Um, any questions, any comments from the Zoom? All you can unmute and ask if you want. Okay, so I'm going to close our session today. वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। Thank you, dear devotees, taking time from your busy lives and joining this online only Wednesday class on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We did go into Srimad Bhagavatam a little bit as well. On Saturday morning and on Sunday evening, 3:30 to 5:30, and Saturday 7 to 10:30. We do have classes in our temple at ISKCON of Silicon Valley, 1965 Latham Street, Mountain View. Please do come and join us there in Kirtan, Katha, and Prasadam. Haribo, Hare Krishna. I am now going to close this session. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, one more thing I forgot. This Friday, we are going to celebrate Nityan. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you know who is Krishna himself, he came. Similarly, Balaram, Krishna's elder brother, came as Nityananda Ram to accompany the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nityananda Ram's appearance day will celebrate Nityananda Trayodasi on this Friday in the temple. So please do come and join us. I'm extremely sorry I forgot that. I apologize for that. So that's the announcement. So please do come this Friday to ISKCON of Silicon Valley Temple at Mountain View and celebrate with us the birthday of Nityananda. Jai Krishna. Now close